Thanks, and hello everyone. My name is Sumit Kumar. I work at Car2go, as you can see, and we are sponsoring a couple meetups around the world and some other, let's say, developer projects or events to simply show that Car2go is now at least a company with in-house developers. Car2go outsourced pretty much everything for the last 7 years. And I joined Car2go in 2016, and we started to build up a new development team here in Berlin, in Hamburg, and in Stuttgart. And that's basically us, Car2go developers. Here in Berlin, we have a big office at Potsdamer Platz. And yeah, you can find us on Twitter, on Medium, and I just want to give you a quick introduction what we do at Car2go and what the developing or the developers have to deal with every day. So obviously Car2go, do I have to explain the product? Is anyone unfamiliar with Car2go at all? No? Okay, that's very good to hear. And we face a couple of problems in that car sharing business in general. So we have a connected car fleet. It's a whole challenge on its own. We have 14,000 cars worldwide. They are all connected obviously to our backends and the servers. And just give it one telecom crash or something for a second, and the load is crazy that is there because of the reconnecting of the cars, stuff like this, like these short spikes. So our telematics team has a lot of challenges with this. Fleet management, so it's not just renting out the cars, it's also they have to be cleaned, maintained, branded, refilled, charged for the electrical fleets and stuff like this. So fleet management, a big topic here in Berlin for us. For the developers here in Berlin, that's a whole challenge on itself, and something we would say is unique to Car2go, or kind of unique, because neither, for example, Uber or My Taxi, who have a similar business, if you look at it, if you look at the cars itself, they don't own the cars like we do. So they don't have to operate them themselves, but the private people or the drivers have to do that. Everything is real time. Obviously, it's not unique, but it's a challenge at Car2go. The payment stuff. If you go to the car and you want to open it with your smartphone, it has to open immediately and not in 30 seconds or later, which was the case a couple of years ago at Car2go. So that is a big one for us as well. We basically have only mobile users. I mean, nobody opens the car from a desktop. So it's just mobile apps. So our development teams for the apps are, I would say, pretty awesome. I really like the app myself, and it's a big one. Localization. If any one of you has ever had to localize something for China, knows that this is just borderline crazy. You have to send everything to the government first. The coordinates are shifted a little bit, so you like. They said, put your tools to China, and we said, yeah, just deployment there and it's fine. It's not. You have to do months and years of work to get everything to work in China. Also, the US and Europe is the easiest one, I think. And then autonomous cars, the future that everybody raves about. If our cars are autonomous or semi-autonomous, it's obviously our goal as well, and we have to build the platform behind it to distribute the fleet, to manage it and everything that goes along with it. So these are the problems that we're trying to solve, that our developers are trying to solve. And we do that on the website. So this is a front-end Meetup, and we obviously have a lot of web developers. And this is our stack. We use Vue.js on the front-end side. We still have some old applications, that are Angular 1. We are migrating a lot of that to Vue, and every new application is Vue.js. Also why we are here. Node.js and Ruby on Rails are the languages of choice on the backend side. Ruby on Rails is the smaller part of it. Most of it is Node. And obviously we have a big old code base there as well that is Java. But this is still outsourced, as I said in the beginning. Car2go outsourced a lot of development, and the Java stuff is still outsourced. So the internal Car2go developers currently are dealing with Node.js and Ruby on Rails. Then we use Docker for every deployment. I don't think there is anything we deploy without Docker, nothing. And to to coordinate all of this, the infrastructure behind it is Kubernetes. We switched to this last year from nothing basically. So it's a huge step for us. Has its own challenges, obviously, but it was a great step for us up until now. And we will hopefully stick for it for a couple of years, even if there are new technologies coming out every day. The developers at Car2go, we also, this is our marketing claim, car sharing, we want to share everything. So our developers said, well, we want to share too. So we go into open source, we go to Medium and post there about technology stuff and stuff that is just happening around the development teams. We have a dedicated Twitter account for our developers, and we go to meetups like this one and hackathons, sponsor them, participate, whatever we can do, simply because it's fun, helps us build a little bit of a brand as well in the development community. And that's basically it. I would say enjoy the talks. I'm not sure how many there are or if I'm the only one. You too, enjoy the talks. And obviously we are searching for developers, especially front-end developers on Vue.js. I have to say that as well. So if anyone wants to hear more or interested, just approach us after. And that's about it. Enjoy the pizza too. Thanks.
The pizza is in time. We have still 15 minutes. I'm sorry for that.
Should I rush it through?
Oh yeah, we could just do an introduction round.
Maybe
genius.
I have some questions actually.
Oh yeah.
So basically, I'm really interested. I didn't check the web part of Car2go, but I mean half a year ago, it wasn't possible to book a car or open a car from the
browser.
From the browser.
Yeah, it's still not because on the desktop, we want to make sure that you are next to the car. Yeah. So in the beginning, technically, it was possible to I could open a car from here. But we want to avoid that. So now you have to stay in front of the car and type in a localization code. The car will display it to you and you type it in. So it makes no sense anymore to do it from the desktop anywhere. I would say it would make sense to at least reserve a car. But the user base was so small, we got rid of it.
My question was, so you told you have a lot of front-end development, you have a lot of applications, and
where they are, you mean?
Exactly. What is it?
Okay, so let's say one part, the consumer-facing part, the only one you will see probably is the website, right? Car2go.com. But we have a lot of tools behind it, like fleet management, coordinate management, the members. We have, I don't know, dozens and dozens of microservices that also need front ends to display data, dashboards, data visualization. We got the damage reporting stuff, which is a huge topic. People call because, if there is a leaf in a car and someone calls us or types in that it's dirty and another one has puked on the seat and doesn't call, we have a whole lot of logic around that, and this all needs visualization. So most of the stuff is not necessarily consumer facing.
Yeah.
Does it answer?
Yeah,
Let's visualize the puking too much.
The puking too much has a nice little icon. There was another one.
So the simple question is that the Vue.js stuff is not consumer facing.
The website will be Vue.js as well. It's currently Angular 1, and I think they are on migrating. They are currently migrating that. There is a complicated part. I mean, it's just a representational website, right, with some content, but the payment stuff behind it. You can do your payment accounts there and all this kind of stuff. This is more complicated. That's why it's not like this. It's Angular 1 still and will be Vue.js in the future. And we are currently also, regarding Vue.js, looking at the server-side rendering stuff. Either we are Nuxt or just by what Vue offers out of the box. But it's still on a trial phase and looking what works best for us.
You said that there are different cities. So where are the developers?
Developers. So the business let's start the other way around, the consumer-facing stuff. So all the app developments, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, even BlackBerry, that is all in Hamburg. Also the website developers are there. And here in Berlin, we do the business application side. So fleet management, algorithms, data science, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff is here. And in Stuttgart, our headquarters, we have a couple infrastructure guys there, and all this old world, the Java people are there. And we want to keep them there. So we came to Berlin and said, here it's just, JavaScript basically, and a little bit Ruby on Rails. Yeah.
Did you try out other frameworks, modern frameworks, before you choose?
Yeah, that is actually one article on our Medium page, how we chose the front-end framework, Vue.js. We had a kind of like hackathon, and I mean, if I should sum up the article, it's basically, we had like 7 to 10 developers, and the frameworks we tested was Angular 2 at the time, I think 4 was just announced, React and Vue. And then we had some like Polymer or something like this. But basically we tested the big three currently. And every developer had to develop the same app with a framework they don't know or hate. Not the one they love, because obviously the choice is clear, so that when we discuss it, they can compare it to the ones they like or know already. And we wanted to have an objective discussion there. So this was one of the big ones. We had more criteria, they are in this article. And then we had 1 week, every developer built the same app, and then we compared them. We talked about documentation, about the community, plugins, how fast were they able to develop with the framework they don't know, and Vue.js was the least known. How good is the onboarding for new developers? We had to check that as well. Stuff like this. And just some remarks. Angular was problematic simply because it required TypeScript. The documentation was, at that time at least, very bad for JavaScript. React was good, but people they didn't like JSX that much. So the directive approach of Vue, the simple API and the documentation was like mind-blowing to most of them. And then it was a decision where everybody was comfortable with. And we did that to settle this discussion, because especially if you build a team, there are 2 new people come in every month. Everyone will tell you the other framework is better all the time. So we wanted to settle this discussion. We had this hackathon. It was expensive because there was nothing developed in that week. But now the discussion is hopefully done for a couple years, hopefully. Let's see. It's going for 1 year already, so that's good.
You don't have to answer this, but how is hiring working? Is it like, Vue.js is new and new people are running in every day, or how does it feel? Hiring for Vue.js?
Hiring developers for Vue.js. So normally, at least I think we hire front-end developers, not Vue.js developers or anything. So I would expect any front-end developer to have preferences, but is able to work with everything that is HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Now, obviously, there are preferences and everything. And Vue.js, we have lots of enthusiasts and people who like it and like the tech stack of Car2go. I like it too. I don't want to work with Angular, for example. But we have old stuff as well. So I can't promise anyone that you will not face old code. Because a company that is there for 9, 10 years, you just have old code and have to deal with it at some point. And currently with Vue, I wouldn't say it drives necessarily more applicants to us right now. I wish. Currently it's not like that. Okay.
And you said you deploy with Docker, so it's all in Docker.
Yep.
And you also deploy with serverless.
The stuff I will show later is basically serverless. We can't or we don't use that at Car2go right now. I would say the infrastructure is, at least for the stuff we have in Berlin, a little bit of a weak part, I would say. Kubernetes is pretty nice, but the serverless stuff is another abstraction that we just don't have yet. And as our parent company is Daimler, we have I don't know if you guys know Daimler here that much, parent company of Mercedes. They are a dinosaur, and especially the infrastructure stuff, like we can't just go to AWS or Google Cloud like this. There's a whole process for data protection and everything that has to be resolved. So this is still a transition for us, right? Okay. Then I would just start. I would talk about front-end deployments because even though no one will admit it, I know that there are still a lot of FTP deployments happening. And the reason I would say for front-end is ease of use. Drag and drop and it's done. But with FTP, or at least if you've done it or if you still do it like I did 10 years ago or 5 years ago, you don't have any of the benefits of the recent, let's say, bells and whistles, Docker deployments and stuff like this. And the company behind Now, the service is called Now, the company behind it, Zeit, they, at least to me, figured out usability in every aspect. And I want to show how deployments via Zeit tools looks like. I will deploy to the platform now, and it's just an abstraction for their for AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. Like they just deploy it to any one of them, depending on which is cheaper, more available, faster, whatever. I don't care about it. I just deploy to Now, and I will show you a little bit about that. I already introduced myself, so we can skip that part. Some of you will notice a pattern in my usernames, but which means you will find me basically everywhere. So if we need to deploy something. So I will show, or I prepared 2 small apps, a static website and a single page application with Vue.js. For that we need a new project, and I had a lot of holidays, as you all had in the last months or weeks, and I train my cat. So this is my project now, and let's do a website, or it was hard. Let's do a website or a project for this cat, and we call it, to stay true to my username thing, Cats of Sumi. And I have to sit down for this one because I have to write some stuff. If you want to deploy a website, anything, you just type in Now, obviously after you installed it. You type in Now in the project directory and it's done. It will get uploaded with a lot of bells and whistles, and I will show you that. So it's demo time already, just one step. And are you guys able to read that? Like this? So I have a static page here, and it's just, I will open it in code so you can see it. Are you able to see it? Yes. Okay, the file structure, very simple: index, style, script.js, and an image. If I open that one in the browser, you will see it's a simple website with a GIF. Okay. I don't need a lot of stuff for it. Do you see it here?
Something wrong with header, I guess. Okay.
Monitor. Okay, so if I go to the file system, you see up here is the Now logo. Oh no, you don't. Can we change the resolution a bit that we see the upper screen? It's cut off on all sides.
Can you change that?
It's not that big of a deal. I will show you.
Display on the computer.
No, it's the top Mac bar. I can't put that down. Doesn't matter if I drag and drop this to this icon. This is basically the FTP style. It will get. Oh, I dropped it into the wrong thing. I drop it to Now. If it works, if not, we will go straight to the terminal deployment. And it deploys the app and creates a unique URL for it, and basically statically serves whatever you upload. So if you upload a FTP, an image, whatever, you drag and drop it in there, they create a Docker container, statically serve the files that you uploaded. You get a unique URL for it in the browser open, and that's it. So I can share this link to anyone, and he or she can access that image. So that obviously works with every file, which means I can just take my website, my static website here, drag and drop it there as well. It will get uploaded. Normally there is a notification, but so it's not getting embarrassing for me, I put the notifications away, all of them. So it's uploading in the background. It will create a unique URL and open it in the browser pretty soon. And there it is. So that was already it. I drag and dropped a website onto the icon, and it's uploaded. It has a unique URL. I can scale it. It is secure. It has HTTPS. It has HTTP2. Like all the bells and whistles that where you normally would have to put in a lot of work is just done, right? So I deployed a complete website like this. So I'm not into the drag and drop stuff per se. I will do it via terminal. So I will show you how that works. I'm in my project directory. Here you will, you see that that there are just these 4 files, and I type in now, and that's where all the magic is happening. It is deploying. It took three seconds. The URL here got created. It's already copied to my clipboard. I paste it into the browser, and it opens up the website. So very easily you can deploy a lot of stuff. How don't they get like overwhelmed and too many websites and stuff like this? These are all in Docker containers, and they will automatically sleep these containers as soon as they don't get any requests anymore. Which means, let's say you have like obviously my project here will be requested 1 million times a day, right? But if you have another cat blog that is not that popular and it doesn't get a request for a few days or a week, the container will go to sleep. It doesn't get any resources anymore from the hosters. But as soon as the first request goes there, they boot it up again, or they launch the Docker container again. So the first request will take some time. But I will show you later how you can circumvent that. Or, if you have a business website that always needs to be fast, always, there are a lot of ways to do that. That's just how they do it. If you I can upload this website 1,000 times. Probably only one of them will be requested by my users. The other ones will fall to sleep and probably get removed at some point. So that was static deployment. Let me go back to my slides. What's included in there? It's HTTPS, as you saw. Out of the box, you don't have to do anything. HTTP2, you can check the source. So if you have an open source project, now is free. If you use it like this, it's free, but then the source is open. So if I type /.source behind the website, you will go to this page where you can see the file structure and the code behind it, nicely formatted. It's also a collaboration tool for them. So for example, I could mark a specific part of the website, and it creates a link with that marked text for me, so I can send it to coworkers like, here's a bug or whatever. I never use it like this, but there are open source people, maintainers, teams who use the tool like this. Also, there are the logs. You are basically like in the background of your deployment right now. If you're not familiar with the term like a deployment, it's coming from this whole Docker environment thing. In Kubernetes, it's the same. Every time you put your website live, you don't update the old one. You create a new website, basically, remove the old one, and point your domains to the new one. So every time, for example, you push to Git or whatever, and it deploys the website, it is a new version of it, normally. Right? That's the whole Docker image thing. A Docker image is immutable. You throw it away and launch the new one. And that's the whole concept here. I will go into detail about that. Multi-cloud, I explained it in the beginning. They deploy to whatever is cheaper or better or more scalable. The big 3 are what they use: Google Cloud, Azure from Microsoft, and AWS from Amazon. But me as a developer, I don't care about that at all. And that's, to me at least, a good thing if we are talking front-end development. Private cloud, which means if you have your private private AWS account, for example, you can use now as an abstraction and deploy to there, to your own instance or your own accounts of AWS. Scaling is also included. I will show that later, and usability. So to me, this process, like I did npm install now, and I was able to deploy with all bells and whistles, HTTPS and everything in 10 seconds. And this is something like, if I just think back 3 years ago or 5 years ago when I had to implement HTTPS myself, I wanted to stop developing. This is stuff that is just annoying to me. I don't like this. I want to code on the website, on the project, and not build the infrastructure, especially if it's always the same. So we have single page application. I showed you static websites. Obviously, if you have a single page application with history mode, I don't know if any one of you ever did this, but if you deploy to Apache, for example, you have to change your htaccess file that it points every sub route to the index so you can handle the routes via JavaScript, right? You need to change your serving server. So you can't just use a static host like I just showed you, but now supports not only static content, it supports out of the box Docker, Node, and static. If you upload anything to now, if you deploy it, they will check first for a Docker file. If there is a Docker file, they build a Docker container out of it and launch it. So you can deploy everything. Ruby on Rails, whatever you can throw into a Docker container, you can deploy to now. If they find not a Docker file, but a package JSON, they launch a Docker container with Node and go for npm build, npm start. Right? These scripts, they just launch it by default. So any Node app, any front-end app that has a Node backend, you can just throw it there. So Express, whatever, any project with a package JSON, throw it in and it will work. And that's what I will facilitate now to deploy my single page application. So if I go to Cats of Summit, I will open it real quick in code so you see the structure and everything. So it's a basic like Vue CLI generated progressive web app, a template that is based on Webpack. And it has the source structure. Anyone who uses Vue CLI will probably be familiar with this. This is the main component for it. I will launch it real quick so you can see it locally. The router has 2 routes, hello and about, and you can see I put the mode history on, which means we have push state. So now I will tell you what's in the URL if you can see it. This is the Vue application, a little bit more professional for my cat blog. And if I click on about, you will have /about in there. And if your serving server is not ready for this, if it doesn't have the rewrite rules that I explained before, if you reload the page, it will not work. But this is now served locally. So I can show you how to do that to now. I will first do it wrongly so you can see. So if I do npm run build in this, it will create a dist folder here. And in there is the build application, right? That's basically a static app. You can upload it and it works, but it won't work with the history mode, with push state and everything from the browser. But we'll do it anyway. So I do now dist, deploy the dist folder. It deploys it. It creates a unique URL. There it is. It's done already. I put it into the browser. It's copied already to my clipboard all the time. And now you will see the application. There we go. I will go to the About page. And if I reload now, it throws a 404 because this rewrite rule is not there. Okay. Now I need basically a server to serve it that has these rewrite rules for single page applications. Now you can use anything you want. You can use Nginx, you can use Node, it doesn't matter. I personally use another project of the same company. It's called Serve. I have it installed globally on my computer. So if I type serve this, it would just create a web server with a network URL and a local URL, and everything works. And if I do serve dist single, it has the rewrite rules for a single page application. So I do now, you probably won't do this in your projects or workflow, but just to show it to you, I will create a package.json in my dist folder, because again, if I deploy something with a package.json, it runs npm install and npm start. So let's put dependencies serve. Does it tell me? Yes, it tells me the latest version as well. And then we need scripts, start script, and it's just serve dist and as a single page app. You can also write this short like this. Okay, so if I know the platform will run npm install and npm start, it should install serve, and then it should serve the build dist folder. Does npm install first? Sorry, npm install, npm build, npm start. So npm install installs serve. It doesn't need npm build because I uploaded my website from the dist folder, and then it just does serve. And yeah, I just noticed myself. Only has to be this. Because I don't have a dist folder in general, I upload the complete folder. So let's try it. I have to go to my dist folder, or I do it like this now, dist. Now it deploys it again, but this time it doesn't serve it statically, it starts this node web server that supports single page applications. You can see this time it does initializing, so it's starting up a container. If I go to the website right now, to the URL, it's already started. You see what was done here. It was synced, so all files uploaded, prepared container, installed and built the project. So npm install and npm build if there wasn't build script or whatever, and then it started it. So already I visit it, and there we have it. I go to the about page, reload, and hopefully it works. Yes. So we made single page applications work on now. It's really simple, but normally the dist folder, you don't edit it, you don't put it into version control, it is generated, so you don't want to create a package.json in the dist folder. Normally, or the best possible way, you don't touch the dist folder at all. It is auto-generated and you don't care about it. So I show you the way I do it in all my projects. There are 100 ways probably to do it with the Now infrastructure, but I do it this way. I open up the main package. Whoops, I will delete this. I open up the main package.json of my project. And we have here these the scripts that are there for the Webpack stuff, right? npm run dev starts my local development environment. npm start does the same. npm build builds the application and has these, does all the Webpack stuff and minification and everything. And then we have lint. So I know now does npm install, npm build, and npm start. So I will change my start script to serve the dist folder as a single page app, which means I will build on now. I will upload my source files and the package.json and let my application be built on now. So the build step is online, on the server. And then I just serve the outcome of it. Which means I need a dependency here, or I don't do it like this, because as we have a package log JSON, it has to be in there as well. So I install serve first, locally, just so that it's in everywhere in the package JSONs. You will see it under dependencies soon. npm install live I know that it's very bold that I do this live, but it does work most of the time. So we have serve here now as a dependency, and I change the start script. So what should happen? If I run now in my project root folder now, it uploads basically everything that is not in git ignore. or you can also have a now ignore. You know, there are lots of ways to customize the stuff. But if I upload it currently, right now, I can drag and drop it, or I just type now again. It will do npm install, installs all the dependencies and dev dependencies. It will run npm build. It builds my application and has the dist folder created. And then it runs npm start, which will serve the dist folder. Okay, and serve is available because I put it into the dependencies. So lots of talk. Let's see if that works. I type now. It starts deploying. I will open up the website immediately that was created, and hopefully we will see some. It got pretty fast, but npm install hopefully takes some time so we can see what is happening. So there it is. It says preparing container, and then it will install. No, it's already prepared. It will install modules and building the project. If I click on logs, you will see that it's exactly the same as you would locally do it. npm install, npm build, and it's the whole application. Currently, it's doing npm build. This will probably. Oh no, it's not. It's done, and now it does npm start. You see the command there: serve -s dist, server running on the port. And now, if I go back and press on Reddit to visit, the website is there. So I know I talked now, I don't know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes about the different ways to do it, but I recommend this way. If you have a front-end single-page application, just put something like serve in your dependencies, change your start script so it serves the dist folder, and put it online. This way, you can, like, I just ran one command to deploy it. Now offers an API to deploy everything. I'll show you some more stuff soon. And you can facilitate basically any workflow you want. If you want to deploy when a push happens to your Git repository, if you want to deploy any feature branch that you have under a unique URL so your team can test it, right? You change the button from green to red, an important feature in a lot of projects. It auto-deploys and you have a new link to that version. You send it around your team, your QA team, they see the button is cool, and then you change the DNS entry of your domain to the new deployment, and it's done. I show you how to change DNS stuff in now quite soon. But this is the whole deployment thing, and I would say it's easier than FTP and much more powerful because you have lots of different ways and flexibility, and they maintain the usability of simple deployments. Yes.
Let's say you have different API endpoints for development environment.
Yeah.
Live.
I'll come to that. You will need different URLs in your build, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I will show you.
Probably some environment variation.
Yeah, definitely. I will show you. Yeah.
If I build my application on a now, how am I aware of it? The build was successful or failed? So usually you have something like a Jenkins, which where you basically you usually like run the test locally, but usually then it's like okay, I send it to whatever Jenkins, and
that's a good point. So now is a deployment tool, and it will not replace your CI. So we at Car2go we use GitLab CI. There's Jenkins, there's Travis CI, and whatnot. It doesn't replace that. So we still do all the steps like linting, testing, all this kind of stuff on GitLab CI, and then deploy it somewhere. And this deployment step could just be use the Docker image and deploy it, or build it there, test it again, and then use the build it files to put it there. This way that I do it, deploy it, build it online and serve it there without any tests, my private projects. I don't write a lot of tests there. Not for this blog especially. But yeah, obviously it doesn't replace your CI step. So how I would do it, I haven't done it yet, but I was thinking about doing a GitHub integration. So when you push there, uploads to now, builds and serves it via a unique URL, then the tests run through that deployment. And if it's okay, it just tells you in GitHub, all tests passed, everything was cool, even your end-to-end tests on the website went successfully through, and then you can, release it if you want. But because every deployment is a unique URL, you can basically implement it anywhere and test it. I haven't done that, but I know it's possible, and I just hadn't had the time to include it, and I'm also not sure if I have to write a GitHub integration myself or if there is already one. Anyways, these are the deployments. So, aliasing. Obviously, you don't want to have your whole the unique URL all the time. So I had where is my cat block? This is my cat block. So it says Cats of Summit, the project name in the package JSON. Maybe you noticed it. Before it said static something. When I just put in a folder, it takes the folder name and then a random string behind it as a domain, .now.sh. So it's always a subdomain of now.sh. Now I uploaded a package JSON which had a project name, Cats of Summit. So it says Cats of Summit dash random string .now.sh. I don't want that. So if I now want to have, let's say, a public version of it or a dev version of it or anything, I type in now. Can you all read this? I will clear real quick. So I have the URL that is normally copied to my clipboard. Now alias the URL and I say Cats of Summit. What's happening? Did it? Oh yeah, there it is. So what's happening here is it points the subdomain catsofsummit.now.sh to my deployment, right? So I just said alias my URL with Cats of Summit. And as soon as you just type in a name, it creates a subdomain on now.sh if it's available. And now Cats of Summit. I didn't realize I have to say that so often today. .now.sh. And it will open up just the same website. So, for example, my personal website, there is nothing on there, but it's also summit.now.sh simply because I don't want to buy a domain for it. I use a subdomain from site and it's fine.
I think you had a typo there.
You have a typo? Cat? Where?
In the terminal.
There was Fusmit and
Oh, thanks. Yeah, wrong URL. So I reserved another subdomain now. This is still all free, by the way. So even these subdomains are free. You can go and reserve everything like you did in Gmail probably 20 years ago. But most of my stuff was available right now. So that works. Now. We aliased our deployment. I used that, for example, a lot for dev environments or something like this. Domain buying is the most. I don't know how you buy domains today, but you want to do it this way. For example, now domain by catsofsummit.io. It checks if it's available, and you know what? We will buy the URL now.
Oh, 46.
It's a serious project, Purchasing it, and my number 26 account should tell me real quick that there it is charging. I just bought this, and it's available. Now this is how I want to buy domains, right? It will trigger stupid spontaneous purchases like this one, but
Under company voice.
this is how I want to. I hope I didn't have a typo in there. No, it's good. This is how I want to handle my domains and DNS entries and stuff like this. So it's available, and now check this out. I have it's purchased. So is my deployment still there somewhere? Where did we do it? My deployment URL, here it is. No, that's this. Cats of Summit, this one, right? This is the deployment URL, hopefully. Yeah. So now alias my deployment catsofsummit.io. And that's it. It detected the name service for the DNS and everything. And now it changes the DNS entries, points my domain to this deployment. And if I go to catsofsummit.io, wait, DNS is slow, you know. It's configured, it's verifying it now, and hopefully it doesn't tell me anything wrong. So slower than regular aliases, but still faster than anything I did before. Let's check. Not yet. Yeah. But that's basically it. I don't know if the DNS name server stuff will take a bit more time. Normally you have 48 hours until your domain is ready. I normally push them like this, so I want it in the next minute because you're getting it so fast, but it will take a couple minutes probably. So I will continue the presentation. We'll check later if it's working or not. I leave the tab open, but the domain is mine, and who's who entry and everything should be there. So that's how you alias a custom domain. If you have your domain already on another provider, I had that too, or I have a couple of them. You point your name servers to their name servers, and then you can handle your domain via like this as well. And yeah, we'll see if that works or not. Not yet. Let's wait. Yeah.
Now I have to ask, how do I manage all this stuff? I mean, you like upload it now, like maybe 10 applications and buy a domain. Like buying a domain over a command line is very cool. How do I manage it? I mean, it was like, okay, charge my...
Yeah, obviously, if you go to Car2go, to their website, you have a dashboard and everything where they show you all your, like my credit card is behind there. Otherwise, how the hell would they, charge me? But there you see all your domains, but also you have everything available here. So look at this now. Domain ls, and they will tell you all the domains I have on site. Right? So don't look at this. If you do now alias ls, it tells you every alias you have. Oops, these ones, don't look at them. So you can do everything via command line as well. Remove it and find it, whatever. I will show you some other stuff as soon as the domain is available. Did I have a typo? No. But again, oops.
Sorry, I think it asked you to retry it through an hour.
Yeah, but it has the domain here, as you can see.
Can you see in the dashboard?
Oh, you mean it does?
Retry the alias.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, good thing. Thanks. So this is the alias. Let's do that one again. Anyway, until we are there, so how do you release an app? Again, you have all these deployments, right? And you will forget about most of them. They will be scaled down. You don't have to worry about them. Like it's their problem. And now you tested your application. You have a unique URL created for it, and you want to release it. I just alias it, right? I just alias the domain to the new deployment. That's how I release an app now. So every time I have a new feature, I deploy it to production with everything, the new database and everything, test out if it's working, and then I just point the domain to the new deployment and all my users are going there as well. So it's kind of a different workflow, but it's a very powerful one to me. So there are questions like the environment variable stuff that need to be handled. So as soon as you have 2 stages or 3 or more, you need different URLs in your build. So normally, locally, you would have, every team does differently, environmental variables, for example, that you include in your build. And your Webpack script, for example, takes on the API URLs and stuff like this from your environment for .env file or whatever, or from the environment, puts it into your build, you build the application and ship it. That is still necessary for every front-end application, and you can do that. So first of all, again, for the concept, you have a custom URL for your deployment. This is one instance of your application that is available via this unique URL. If you deploy again, you have a new one. It's a different one, even if you have exactly the same code, different deployments, different URLs, different houses basically. Now, I just aliased my catsofsummit.io to this deployment, which means my users that go to this site will see this one. Only people with the specific URL can access the other one. You can also remove it if you like, but I just ignore it most of the time. Now, let's say you want to introduce a dev environment. You have a new deployment, deploy it again, and I just create a subdomain, dev.catsofsummit.io, and put it to this one. So again, you have your basically entry points, your stages here with URLs or whatever, but here it's just a sea of deployments and you just pinpoint your stages, means your public addresses to the different deployments. And that's the whole magic behind it, right? So you can have 20,000 stages, it doesn't matter. But obviously, you need environmental variables for that or anything in particular. Now has a lot of power. I will not show all of the things you can do, but they have lots of possibilities. I will show some or explain some, but most of the time, if you have a question, can I do this? The answer is yes. I just didn't tell you or don't know it, but they have lots and lots of features and different ways to do it, except databases. That's another topic. So if I do now, -e is the option for environmental variable, and then db name gleich test. It will be in the node process or whatever in the environment after the deployment, which means if your backend code or your front-end build process requires this, it will have it. So for example, what I do is now -e and then API base and then the API string that I use, and it will be included in the build script, right? This is a specific build that I have. It's not now specific, but that's how I use environmental variables. You can also put them in the package.json or now.json. I would at least not put it in the package.json because you don't want them in Git, but you can create a now.json and it's also available on the deployment. You can use .env files. That's actually how I do it most of the time. I have 3 .env files, 1 per stage, and I just deploy with a different env file when I deploy to a different stage or whatever. You can inherit from your shell, you can do default variables, you can secure them with secrets, and yeah, all of this is and more is explained in their documentation. So that's how you do it. Does it answer the question? Okay, great. Should we check real quick if that propagation worked? Nope. Then configuration. So alias. Maybe, for example, if you deploy to your dev environment or if you deploy anything, you don't always want a unique URL or you don't want to always do the now alias thing. I simply create an npm script called deploy or whatever, and in there it says now und or and now alias. And if you do now alias, it will use the default that is in the package.json, and this is like a now node in the package.json and then a default alias. So as soon as you say now alias, it will use that one. So now every time I run npm run deploy, it will deploy, build, and alias catsofsummit.now.sh to that deployment. So every time I deploy, I have it available on this specific URL. Right? You can put your custom domain in there or whatever, just to make it a little bit easier. Oops. That's what I said. There is more configuration also in their documentation. Scaling, that's a cool one. Based on different metrics, they monitor your application, and obviously a blog like this will get tons and tons of users, so I need to scale it to like 15 instances or something, and they do it automatically. So if you, this is how you tell them the minimal and the maximum instances that you want of your application. So for example, my one instance available under catsofsummit.io, I want at least always 3 instances of it. This also means if I put at least 1 instance there, it will never sleep. Okay, then it's always available fast. I told you before, once one goes to sleep, the first request will take a while because the Docker container has to come up. This will prevent it. So if I scale my application to at least 1 container, will always be there, always fast. And a maximum to 15. So if there's huge load, they will just spawn up another instance and auto scale to 15, and then it's maxed out. But if you need that, then nice project. Okay, we can do this real quick. I wanted to do it with the custom domain, but the DNS is annoying me. So let's do it with the cats of summit.now.sh. So do I still have my deployment URL here? Yes. So if I do, so it's not cutting it off. Maybe I can hold it. And yes, that's a Pokemon terminal with more Pokemons to go, if you know. Anyway, now scale, then my deployment, and then I say at least one, for example. Now it will scale. What you can also do there, if you're currently a beta user, you can tell it the availability zone, so the data center. I could say scale 1 to Brussels and 1 to San Francisco, for example. So it did it. Now there is always one instance and maximum one instance as well of this deployment. Now the next question that people probably have is, okay, but what if I have a new deployment that is now the latest one and I release it? I don't want to always do the scaling again. That's where I think, again, the magic comes in. You can scale the alias. So, at least 2. I do this time. Now it scales the deployment behind that alias. And if I alias another deployment, it will downscale the old one and upscale the new one, depending on what you did on the alias, which is very convenient. Now you only say you want at least 2 instances of your domain, of your main domain, catsofsummit.io. Then it doesn't matter what you deploy. Any deployment that is available via that domain will be scaled to 2. And that is how they do scaling. You can also do a maximum again. But the auto scaling, that's why there is an X here. I don't have it activated. That is only available in the Pro Premium. You have to pay for it.
What do you mean by scaling here?
What I mean by scaling?
Yeah.
So you have one instance of your website, right? There is one server and the Docker container is there, and anytime you go to that URL, it will hit that Docker container. If there are too many and your website or whatever can't handle it, you spawn up a second one, and every second request goes to the first one and the other requests go to the second one. So we split them. And if you have 50 of them, like, it just ensures that your app stays fast. And if you deploy that to different availability zones, you always reduce the latency based on the user's location.
You pay for each of them, or?
No, this is just a feature. So scaling is a pro feature, I think. So I pay, I could open up this now pricing. I think I pay 15 per month, and scaling is included in all of my deployments. So if any application I deploy, I can put the scaling on if I want to, or at least this and that instances. And it will do that, and you don't have to pay more for more instances. They just spawn up another Docker container, which is pretty awesome. And I don't know about you guys, but I have never done this stuff that easy. So buying domains, doing the DNS entry stuff, and I wanted to show some stuff, but with the domains, but I'm not sure if that works now. But I can use another domain. I have a couple handled by site, so I will show you in a new Pokemon. Now domain, oops, I have to do bigger. Like this. Now domain ls, and let's do the logspot.io. Let's say I want to create a subdomain, right? I again go to my deployment URL or any deployment. Do I have one? Now alias ls. This is, for example, where I check my current deployment URLs. There is one. It's just some website. I don't want to open it. It's progress, but doesn't matter. I have the domain logspot.io. here, okay? And now I want to create a subdomain and point it to a deployment. It's just as simple as you might have expected it. Random subdomain.logspot.io. Now it will do the whole DNS magic, create that subdomain, provisions the certificate for HTTPS, and points it to that new domain. That's it. Now the website is available. I will open it up real quick so you can see it, but doesn't matter what's on there. Random subdomain, logspot, it works. And yeah, this is creating subdomains. Again, all the features are in there. You can scale it then again. And I use now to handle all of my domain stuff. Even if I create DNS entries for mail servers or stuff like this, I do it also via the command line here. You can do all of this stuff. It's all in the documentation. That's basically all the features. Sadly, the DNS stuff of the new domain didn't work, but to be honest, I didn't want to buy the new domain. I just wanted to press enter there. So what site tells you and how they build it, why they build it, they say they want you to focus on the product. That's basically a tagline and not the service, not the infrastructure. And at least to me, I think they succeeded, and I use it in all of my private projects. I can recommend it, and that's about it. Thank you, and if you want to complain, hit me up on Twitter. Thanks. Okay, if there are questions, we can take them now as well.
So my deploy pipeline doesn't use FTP.
The DNS worked.
What I basically set up with Jenkins is basically using rsync to basically sync the state of the application I'm deploying, which saves in case of you have like a huge application, can you save a lot of time. Does this tool support something like this?
Can you repeat the part again that you do? So you have a big
so basically what I'm not like basically copying all the files, I'm using rsync to basically just update the changes, files which change, the files that change and so on. This, in the case you have a really big application and deployment can take some excessive time, can save you some time.
They support it in a different way, and that's caching. So if just a few files would change, they now, or I think any Docker-based environment is where they support caching, so you don't have to upload everything or build everything. But again, if you do FTP style, you have your file structure and just upload one file to it and replace that. That goes against the concept of a not immutable Docker image and Docker deployment. So I would say that case is differently supported, but I would argue, I mean, I don't know that big application, but we, for example, haven't had a use case to that is a need, for example. I know that some applications might build half a day. I just don't know these applications. But that specific use case is, I would say, differently handled. Other questions? Was it too confusing, or did I just explain everything? Too amazing. I hear that domain stuff is pretty cool, but
do you know anything about the company behind it? Is it
yes,
German or?
It's a startup in San Francisco, and I had the chance to visit them actually. So it's not like I'm a salesperson for them, so nothing. Okay? I use it privately, and I was amazed by it. All of their projects are really amazing, and especially the usability part. Just like how you add a credit card on the website, doesn't matter. And I had a chance, I was in San Francisco for Car2go, and then I just wrote them on Twitter. If they have, like, if I can come by and give them a high five because I'm a fan of the product. They didn't know me, like, and they don't know Car2go either, so it didn't matter. But they said, yeah, sure, come by after lunch. And then I went there and they said, here's the desk, you can work from here. And then I worked there half a day and got to know the team, and we talked a bit about their plans and what they do. And this is just like a group of people but they all are like industry leading people. So for example, their CEO is the guy behind Mongoose and Socket.io and stuff like this. So all of them, or most of them, have an amazing background. And I don't know, for some people, you know, they get starstruck if they meet Brad Pitt or something. I was starstruck there because all of them were like these industry giants, and I was still like, they're all so much smarter than me and stuff. Yeah, so I've met them, but I told them and told you I'm not a salesperson for them, just a fan. Yeah.
It's one question. Love it, amazing. But one question, like probably you used something similar before, and now I'm using something smart, Heroku. I use that. Looks very simple to deploy applications. There's some big difference. So I'm the only one I see this and say, oh, it looks like Heroku, but this maybe is cooler. I want to try tonight. I want to try tomorrow. But there's some big features or different things, or I'm the other one that
so I have used Heroku just a little bit. I'm currently using a lot of Firebase, for example. They also have this tooling locally to easily deploy. I would not say there is a big difference. I would say the usability there is just nice, and they are a startup that does so much open source work. Also, I have to say I just like to support them as well as a user and paying user. Me personally, that was the simplest and most user-friendly way to deploy things. I thought even Heroku had a little bit of a learning curve and a little bit of a hurdle in the beginning. Probably changed. There are competitors from them like Up or Serverless. They are also very nice and simple, and Firebase and stuff like this. So they all aim to do the same, make it as simple as possible to deploy stuff. So I'm not saying this is like revolutionary and you haven't seen it anywhere. Talking about now, not my cat. Yeah, this is just one that I use and that I find most incredible.
It's amazing, and the things you drag stuff on the icon at the top, something is amazing. Okay. I want to try these tomorrow.
Yeah, I had this talk in some other meetups as well, and I got messages after that they switched from FTP. They didn't raise their hand or try or said that but they said this made them switch from FTP, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Yeah, okay. Any other questions?
Is there a good comparison between others? I mean, there's now, but you also mentioned.
Yeah, I haven't checked actually. So the one, like I follow, for example, the guy for Up. It's just called Up, and you type in Up, and it does the same, but only AWS stuff. But I think they're with more features, I would say. But I don't know any specific comparison. There might be, but I haven't read them. And the guy behind Up is also just one person. I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad, but it's bold, at least for a company, to go in there. Infrastructure by one person. They have a team, but obviously Amazon has a city for their infrastructure, so you can always do that comparison. Yeah, I don't know I don't know a specific one. Also, what I wanted to mention, databases. Obviously, you don't deploy databases in Docker containers. So you would have to use an external service, database as a service or whatever. Again, I use Firebase, but there are lots of things there. If you just want to test something like Docker Compose or whole infrastructure, you can put it there and test it. But the data obviously is lost after restart. So you would have to use an external one. But for example, if I look at Car2go with Kubernetes and everything, our databases are also not on the same service as the clusters. So it's also external, but we have it do it ourselves. So I think that's a given. Okay. Then, thanks again, and my work is done.